Hey everyone, welcome to Tathastu-ICS. I hope you all are doing good. Well, today we are going to talk about a debate which is there for a very long time, and that is the lateral entry in civil services. And why are we talking this in today's class, in today's session? Because we all know from this 18th of September, there is a special session which has been called in the Parliament of India. And in that special session, out of many topics, one topic which is going to be discussed is around the telecommunication sector. Okay, so there could be a proposed bill, and though it's a topic and people are saying that there could be a bill where the government is contemplating a modification in the TRI Act of 1997, and with this modification it would be allowed to the individuals, to the persons who belong to the private sector, to be the chairperson of TRI. Okay, and this is a regulatory body for telecommunication sector. Okay, so with this news, the whole debate around the lateral entry, that should we appoint private individuals or people from private sector in these key positions, so is it a conflict? Could this be a conflict of interest, or is it a thing which could lead India towards a better future? So we can talk about this through different dimensions, but before that, here's a quick information for you. 4 nice courses have been designed. One is MSLV, Main Success Launch Vehicle. Admissions are open here. Another one is PSLV, Prelim Success Launch Vehicle, and it is coming soon. The third one is NCERT Module. Registration is open here. And the fourth one is Philosophy Optional. The new batch will start from 15th of September, that is tomorrow, and it will be helmed by Dr. Tanuja ma'am. These are the numbers you can contact, and this is the address. You can visit the coaching institute also. Okay, so what is the news? Why are we discussing this particular thing, this particular lateral entry? Because of this news. So the government is contemplating a modification to the TRI Act of 1997 to make a top regulatory positions accessible to the individuals from private sectors. Okay, and private sector, this proposed change would, if it is passed, if this change would be passed, it is said that the senior corporate executives would assume the role of chairperson at the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. Now, what is TRI, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India? So it's a regulatory authority. Specifically, it's a regulator for the telecommunication industry in India. Okay, so the whole of telecommunication India, the whole of telecommunication department in India, the telecommunication ministry, and this particular sector has been taken care by this particular TRI, Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. Okay, and historically, no private sector appointments have been occurred primarily due to the concerns regarding to the potential conflict of interest. This body is there for a very long time, but no private recommendations or no private appointments have been done in this particular sector, because one reason was the conflict of interest. There are many other reasons why people are quite skeptical about putting the private persons or people who belong to the private sector in these key positions. We will discuss it, but one is conflict of interest. We'll talk about this conflict of interest in detail also. Okay, the proposed amendments signals a shift in center's approach, indicating a willingness to open up key regulatory positions to individuals from the private sector. Okay, so specifically this government, this Bharatiya Janata Party government, Modi government, has been pushing for the lateral entry for a very long time, for last 4-5 years. The responsible people who are there in the government, they are pushing for it, that if there is a person who he or she could belong to a particular sector, to a particular private sector, but if he or she possesses that kind of expertise, that kind of intelligence, that kind of experience in the particular sector, be it pharmaceutical, be it banking, be it telecommunication, okay, be it finance, so he or she should be used for these kind of top posts in the government. Now, first of all, we'll talk about the positives of the lateral entry and the negatives, of course, so that we can comprehensively cover this topic. But first of all, let's have a look on the definition. What is this lateral entry? So it involves bringing in individuals with expertise and experience from outside the traditional government bureaucracy to take up roles in various government agencies and departments. Okay, so specifically the thing is people who have certain kind of expertise and with a considerable amount of experience with these two E's combining, then it is said that they could be roped in at the top government positions. The recommendation for the very first time, although this has been discussed in last 5-6 years, but for the very first time it has been discussed, it has been recommended, was by the report of Niti Aayog. So the concept of lateral entry gained prominence in India through the recommendation in Niti Aayog's 3-year action agenda and then the sectoral group of secretaries on governance. Now these were the two things which recommended about having a lateral entry into the government sector. These recommendations suggested the infusion of personals, the people at the middle and the senior management levels within the central government. So with this thing, the people who belong, who have a considerable amount of experience, people who have good expertise in their particular fields, they could be roped in into this central government, at the medium levels and at the top levels. And of course, the two things which recommended this after that this whole debate has started was, one was the Niti Aayog report 3-year action agenda plan, and another one was SGOS governance report. Now these are the few examples and these are the few notable appointments as the lateral entrants. An example such as the Madhavi Puri Butch. Now she is a private sector executive and works as the head of the SEBI, Securities and Exchange Board of India. Now she was graduated from St. Stephen's College, then she had a degree from IIM Ahmedabad. She had everything good in finance and mathematics, and she also served at the board of ICICI Bank. Okay, and from there the government of India roped her in, and this was the first time that someone, there's a person who belonged to from a private sector who has been roped in at the top level position, at the chairman level position in SEBI. Okay, so this was Madhavi Puri Butch. Other examples are, one is Rajiv Bansal. He was a former Infosys executive and was appointed as the chairman and managing director of Air India. Okay, so there's a guy who has been working good in Infosys, has been roped in because of his experience, because of his expertise, because of his governing style. He has been roped in for to work properly and to make Air India work properly. Another example is Nandan Nilekani. So he is a very famous co-founder of Infosys and was appointed as the chairman of UIDAI, that is Unique Identification Authority of India. He played a pivotal role in implementation of Aadhaar project and India's biometric identification system. Okay, so again, someone who had experience in technology, someone who had experience in tech, someone who was the co-founder of Infosys. Now Infosys is one of the giants of India and one of the giants of the world, and if that person is having some kind of experience, then he has been roped in. Okay, so what is government's reasoning for all these lateral entry? Now these were only 2-3 examples. There are multiple examples out there, and this is the case that this particular lateral entry is not new. Okay, there were examples when there were lateral entrants in other governments also. Okay, but this is the first time when this particular debate is there, that why should the people who should serve at the top and the middle level should only come from civil services examinations or state examinations. Okay, if they have knowledge, if they have expertise, they could come. They could directly be handpicked from these private sectors also. So what is the government's reasoning for lateral entry? Number one is, so we are going to talk about the positives and why the government is supporting it. Number one is bringing in fresh talent. Now the lateral entry allows the government to appoint individuals with specialized knowledge and expertise in specific domains. Okay, so if Nandan Nilekani ji has been roped in for biometrics and Aadhaar, then he had specific inclination and he was the co-founder of Infosys, so he had the experience in the similar field. Similarly, the current chairperson of SEBI, she had the experience, Madhubiji, she had experience in mathematics, she had experience in finance, she had experience in management, she was on the board of ICICI Bank, so she has been roped in as a SEBI chairperson. So this brings the fresh perspective and skills to the government organization, enhancing their ability to address complex challenges which they might have addressed already, the same field challenges in their long serving career in those particular fields, the careers of 20, 25 years, 30 years maybe. Okay, second point is augmenting manpower. Now the Baswan committee has highlighted a significant shortage of officers in various government services, including IAS, Indian Administrative Service. Now the number which has been suggested by Baswan committee was around 20%. Okay, so according to Baswan committee, 20% in Indian Administrative Service only, the officers, this particular service lacks 20% of the manforce, 20% of the officers in 24 states. Okay, so there is a thing which needs to be filled, there is a gap which needs to be filled, and according to the government, it's a nice way to fill the gap. The lateral entry can help bridge this gap and provide additional human resource to meet the administrative needs. Third one is government thinks, and the people who are vocal in the favor of lateral entry, they say that it will eliminate the complacency. Now the infusion of talent from outside traditional bureaucracy is expected to create a competitive environment within the government. Now people in India, and there has been an Indian culture for last 70-75 years. There is a colonial mindset until for last 2-3 years, when these startups and Shark Tanks and they have been coming up in the front. Until this time, there were people who were thinking that this is the only job where you are not accountable to anyone. Okay, the larger idea, the idea in rural Indias, or the idea of a great number of Indian population is that if you get a government job, then that job is secure, that job is you don't have to be very much concerned about your stability, and government will take care of you irrespective of your quality of work. Okay, so this was the general idea in the minds of people. So with this mindset, there were few bureaucrats also who became the bureaucrats. There were few people who became the bureaucrats also. So there is a sense of complacency there, and according to this all these points, and those people who are favoring it, they say that the infusion of talent from the outside traditional bureaucracy is expected to create a competitive environment. It will push the other people who are just complacent. It will push them on the line to work properly. This competition can drive existing personnel to continuously improve and deliver better results, reducing the complacency. The next point is reducing monopolistic hold. Now the career government servants often occupy high management positions. Okay, and these high management positions, there have been examples when the people have been working in different departments, be it agriculture, and they have been given to manage the finance, and that's the main issue with the people who are favoring the lateral entry thing. Okay, lateral entry breaks the monopoly on these positions, introducing diversity and new approach to leadership, which can help improve the governance. Okay, let's move forward. Another point is promoting innovative thinking. Now the individuals from the private sector bring innovative ideas and perform and the performance is driven, and it is this particular performance is based on results, it's based on data, and the result and the people who could go further in life or people who could go higher up in ranks would be based upon on their performance. Their experience in the private sector can foster a culture of innovation within the government, Okay, so they must now, if there is a large organization, there is a giant organization, if there is a government, then there is a particular word for that there is a system, and you have to work according to the system, and this particular system works quite slowly. Okay, so these people who have been there, they worked on 4-5 startups, they managed and built some beautiful companies, they managed to give work to thousands of people, they are having good innovative ideas, so they could be roped in. Another one is streamlining recruitment. By doing this, recruitments could be streamlined. Lateral entry streamlines the recruitment process by directly appointing specialists to specific roles. As I've said, if there is a person from a medical background, he has been a doctor for last 30-35 years, maybe he could be roped in into the health ministry as the secretary, as a joint level secretary. Okay, this reduces the time and the resources spent on the traditional recruitment process, which can be lengthy and resource intensive. Now, what is the process? We know you cleared the civil services examination at the age of 21, if you're very lucky, at the age of 25, 26, maybe people clear it at 28, 30 also. And from there they work for 20-25 years, they reach at those high positions at the age of 55 to 60 years. But there's a time which has been spent by government, there have been government resources which have been spent on these people's, be it the bangla, the gadi, the money. Okay, on one hand there is particular this thing that you train those people for 25-30 years and then bring them in into the governance, into these critical positions, or simply you just handpick those people who have been serving these particular sectors for a very long time. Okay, so this is said that if this thing is favored, then it will streamline the recruitment and it will cut short the lengthy process, and it could be this could be a shortcut to better results. But if something has been favored and if it has been asked from you to write upon something, then if you are writing in favor, then you have to write against that topic also to balance your answer. And to have a balanced viewpoint also, you should know two different aspects of a particular point. Now there is criticism to this lateral entry also. What is the criticism? Number one is the lack of reservation. Now the caste slurs and these particular caste things are one of the realities of India, and with these lateral entries into the government, there is a fear that this would cut short, or this would reduce the aspect of reservation. Critics argue that the lateral entry appointments do not adhere to the reservations policy for scheduled caste, scheduled tribes and other backward classes. Okay, so these were the people, if the process has been done to the government procedure, then there is a particular thing where 50% of the seats would be reserved for the people who belong to the reserved categories. But with this all lateral entry thing, it is particularly based on merit and the choice of the government. Okay, second point is promotion of biases. Now some critics believe that the lateral entry can be used as a way of government to favor individuals with political and personal connections. Okay, now you could come there, you might there are 10 people, okay, who served in the technology department for last 30 years. Okay, 2-3 of them were very brilliant and they are equally nice, they are equally brilliant, they have equal amount of expertise. But the one person who would be handpicked, the one person who would be selected at these critical positions, who would that be? So there is a fear that that person would be someone who has political connections, who has personal connections with the government, with the appointing authorities. Okay, this can undermine the principle of meritocracy and efficiency in the administration, as appointments may not always be based on qualification and competence. Now there could also be a chance, as I've said, that if everything is nice and everything is good, there are 10 people, out of them 2-3 are very nice, and out of these 2-3, one person who has been handpicked is someone who has been close to the authorities. Other than this, maybe out of 10 there are 10 people who are very much competent, and then there are 11 people who belong to the second level of competence, but he fulfills this particular criteria, being close to the authority. So there is a chance, there is a fear that this would happen, that people who are not very much competent, people who have close dealings with the authorities and they don't have required qualification and competence, there is a chance that they might get selected for these critical positions. Okay, and this would reduce the meritocracy and efficiency, the two things for which the whole idea of lateral entry has been pushed, that the people who have merit, the people who have experience, the people who have expertise should be pushed, so that the government and the administration would be having some sort of efficiency. But with these kind of things, and this is a sort of, this is corruption. Okay, so with this kind of corruption, there is a chance that this whole thing might not happen. The third thing is conflict of interest. Now, appointing individuals from the private sector to administrative posts can raise concerns about potential conflict of interest. Now, how potential conflict of interest? There is a guy who has been working in a particular company for last 30 years. He has built some extraordinary rapport with his colleagues. Now, that colleague of him, maybe he's like to him like maybe he is to him like his brother. Okay, now he has been appointed at a very critical position, in the similar sector, in the tech sector. And this insider information and everything is a reality. People do all these things, so there is this fear of conflict of interest. Okay, he might be in, he maybe he's in the position that he'll give some undue advantage to the people who were close to him for last 20, 35, 40 years. Okay, the fifth point actually is limited impact. Critics argue that the impact of the lateral entry on the ground level implementation of the government program may be quite limited. Why? Because those people, you make policies at the higher levels, at the secretary level you make the policies, but the people who implement it are at the district level, the district magistrates and the SDMs of the district. Now, these people who are making right now, the majority of people, 95 or 99% of the people who are making some policies, they are those people who have seen all of this. Okay, they've seen a district, they have seen the dynamics of the district, they know how the machinery of the government works, they know how people respond to a particular kind of idea, a particular kind of policy. If it has been taken, they know what should be the fine balance, what should be the tightrope which needs to be walked on, be it if you have to take a decision on a religious thing. Okay, and then the administration and the authorities who have been there in those villages, in those cities, amongst the people, among the common masses, they know how to walk the tightrope. Okay, that is why when they are making these kind of policies, one thing is there is some idealism to the policy, and another one is the practicality of it. Okay, so these kind of people who have been through that, who have seen that, done the thing, they know how to mix the two things. Okay, but with these kind of people who are coming from different sectors, private sectors, there is a concern that maybe they are not suitable, or maybe they are not in the position to think, because they haven't experienced it. Okay, because they haven't been to a district, they haven't been to a tehsil. Okay, so might be their definition or their policy making would not be that much inclusive, would not be that much practical. Okay, so this is a concern. That is why it has been said that this could be having a limited impact. Lateral entry is typically concentrated at the higher level of the policy making, and its effects may not trickle down to the grassroots level where most government initiatives are executed. Now, that's the thing. Maybe the people who are making it, they are making it with a good spirit, but if they don't know the reality on ground, so it might not trickle down. That is why it has been said, now this is the summary, and it has been said, while the lateral entry is intended to bring the fresh talent, it is intended to bring the expertise, it is intended to bring with talent and expertise some sort of experience, not some sort of experience, a good amount of experience. But while doing that, the government and the concerning authorities, they have to address these kind of criticism, the criticism that these lateral entries are not addressing the reservation thing. There could be a scenario of a potential bias, there could be a scenario of conflict of interest, and it could be having a limited impact on field while doing all these implementations. These criticisms reflects ongoing debate about the advantage and disadvantage of the lateral entry as a mechanism for reforming the government bureaucracy. Okay, so this was the thing we discussed about the lateral entry, and as we said that from this 18th of September this whole session will start, and we will be having that clarity that if that bill gets passed, then we'll be having the exact number of points, that what is it which the government is trying with the try. But other than this is the thing which has been discussed for past 5, 6, 7 years with great amount of intensity, and today we discuss the positives of it and the negatives of it. We'll meet in the other class. Until then, take care. Bye bye, and like the video if you have liked it, share it with your friends and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much.